Bit of an unusual film this week, but it's definitely in the horror category. Let's talk about Let the Right One In. Hi, my name's Stu and welcome to another review video on Flying Wiener. Actually, I was not familiar with this film before watching it. I'm pretty sure I will have heard about it at some point, read about it on the internet. But to be perfectly honest, it's got one of those titles that, at least in horror, seems like, it appears a lot, or it seems very similar to stuff, Horror's got a lot about letting people into some places, or with doors and these kind of things, so I'm sure I heard about it at some point. It's also interesting because there's a sort of debate, I suppose you can call it, but you keep finding comparisons on the internet because there is also an American remake that came out just 2 years after this film called Let Me In. I will talk about that a bit towards the end of this review, but just so you know, just to clarify, I am focusing on Let the Right One In because to me, if you're interested in the shortest version of the debate, to me it feels like the better version, or at least I prefer this version. Let's put it that way, right? But I'll talk about that a bit later. Yeah, I didn't know anything about this. It's really interesting. What's really interesting about this film, I'm trying to be very kind of vague with parts of the story because I don't want to spoil it, and you should discover certain elements, or the twist if you want, for yourself. It is a horror film, but not really, right? So it's definitely part of the story, but it's more of a sort of how should I say, two people, you could call it a romantic story, I suppose. I mean, they definitely fall for each other in a way, but it's more platonic. It's in a way of finally finding that one friend who kind of gets you, right? It's that kind of stuff. It's based on a book written by, and you'll have to excuse me for all the Swedish names that I will probably mispronounce, but the author's name is John Ajvide Lindqvist. And interestingly, he also wrote the screenplay for this film. Now, it is my understanding that the director, Thomas Alfredson, he was also a bit skeptical about this. Obviously, if you've got the actual author, there's always the question, do they know how it translates to screen, to the big screen? Do they know which things work, don't work, what can they leave out from the story? But apparently he was very, very pleased with the work done by the book's author and in the screenplay, who seemingly grasped that concept and really did leave out things that he felt, wouldn't make sense as much on the screen because there's just not as much time as in the book to really flesh out certain aspects of the story. I found that really interesting. That's not something that happens a lot. I thought that was particularly noteworthy here. We are focused on young kids, actually. One in particular, his name is Oscar. He is played by Kari Hedebrandt. I think he's supposed to be 12 years old in the story. And he gets bullied at school. There's a group of guys who love to gang up on him, call him a girl, all these kind of things. We see, obviously, naturally, quite a usual reaction, has a lot of built-up anger about this. The part that's not so okay is he wants to get revenge on them. So we see him doing stuff like, just trying out a knife on a tree and trying to imagine that it's the bullies, etc. I mean, obviously understandable, that he feels that way, but yeah, obviously a bit of a dangerous territory here. He, just as he's doing one of these things just outside of his apartment building, he meets this, he thinks, girl called Ellie, played by Lina Leandersson. And she also seems a bit strange, I'll call it. But the two, they start talking, get to know each other, and we as an audience see that Ellie herself, first of all, she has a secret, which is what I'm not going to reveal here. That's what makes it a bit difficult talking about this story. It's funny also because they like to plaster this element, this twist element everywhere on posters and stuff like that. So yeah, it's not quite so easy to do that. But anyway, the two sort of, they finally have found someone, because Ellie herself has got problems and feels like she's alone in the world. There's no one really there who gets her, who helps her, all these kind of things. So the two, you know, they get more and more acquainted, and as I described in the intro, it's like finally finding that one friend, you know, who gets what you're all about, and that's what we see. The problem is that, again, Ellie has got this secret, and it makes things complicated. I'll just leave it at that. It makes things very, very complicated in the story, and also in the relationship between the two. It's very interesting because at its core, like I said, I mean, it's got a horror element to it. It's not really gory or anything like that. Actually, a lot of the things that you could categorize as maybe gory or so happen a bit off screen. Actually, we don't really see it that much. I'm assuming it was a lot also for budgetary reasons, but it's good because I feel like the focus of the story is these two outcasts, I'll call them, and them building a relationship and just discovering also more about themselves, who they actually are, right? And that is the core of this story. I found it really interesting. It's definitely an unusual film, and that's also why it gained a lot of popularity. Just for context, the book came out in 2004, and this film came out in 2008, so just a few years after. It's got, I believe, a very, very healthy cult following. It was very popular on the circuit when it came out at the time. It just didn't turn into a really, really big hit. But even nowadays, people still value it because it is very different, because there is horror in here, but it's not the main focus. And the horror thing itself, which I'm not revealing, is actually something that can easily be used very in a cliche way, and we see it used in a particular way very often. This feels a bit like they're flipping it on its head a bit. So it's the thing that it is is approached in a very unusual way here, right? So I mean, if you look up this film online, you'll immediately get what I'm, you know, trying to hide here. But just know that if you're like, oh God, it's another one of those, it is a very different story. That's what I feel is really interesting about this film. One thing that makes it really unique to me, or what I like about it, is we really are focused a lot on the kids. It feels a bit weird at times because Oscar's obviously who we're mainly focused on. You know, he's got a lot of problems in his life, and I do feel it's a bit of a shame that there's no one there to actually try and help him. You know, the parent in me is like, can someone please talk to this kid and really try and you know, help him deal with his problems? That doesn't happen, which I find is a bit weird. But then again, I'm not a Swedish person. I don't know what the Swedish culture is like, if everyone's just sort of very you know, kept to themselves and very introverted, etc. I don't know. The setting is incredible because I feel that being in Sweden, it works really well. We're in that period of the year which is just very dark there, or it gets dark easily, I mean quickly, in the afternoon slash night, and it really helps the environment. It all feels a bit very, very depressing, a bit claustrophobic, and I feel it's really just ideal for this story. The colour tones, etc., all feels a bit very, very pale, you know, which I'll get to in a minute when I talk about the remake. I just feel it really sets the tone and the mood for the story really well. We're focused on these two kids who are both doing an incredible job as actors. One interesting aspect is that for Ellie, it's not her actual voice. They got in someone else to do the voice for a particular reason, which I can't reveal here. It was very interesting to see. I myself, unfortunately, cannot judge that because I only had the German dub available to me, which is a big shame. I do hope I get to see the Swedish version of the film at some point. But yes, anyway. So it's a really cool film. It flips a typical cliched concept on its head. It's well worth your while. Like I say, the horror elements are rather little. So if you're like, okay, I want to see a rather unusual horror film that's also not really that scary or so, this is, I would say, a film for you. I said I'll address the American remake briefly. It's called Let Me In. It came out just 2 years after this one. It was made by Matt Reeves, who I love for The Batman and for his Planet of the Apes films. You know, I mean, he is a very competent director. I still don't quite understand what the motivation was to make this remake. You've got a lot of people online saying it wasn't necessary and it's just a copy, etc. It isn't. It's a beautiful film, you know, it's wonderfully shot, and everything, all the elements are good in the film. The actors are good, the child actors, the atmosphere, the Colours are definitely different. They feel a lot warmer, and it's all a bit more cinematic, I'll call it. It's like, oh look, you know, loads of beautiful shots they are. It just felt really a weird contrast to the Swedish version. You know, interestingly, it focuses a lot more on the horror, so it feels a lot more like a horror film. Maybe they thought that this is necessary to sell it to international, in particular American audiences. I'm not sure. They weren't successful, unfortunately, because it did not perform well at the box office. It's a good film, and Matt Reeves himself said, you know, he's taken some things from the book that weren't in the Swedish version. He's also taken some things from the Swedish film, and he's also doing things on his own. Largely, to me, it did feel like a remake, in a sense of even some of the shots feel very similar, etc. It's a well-made film. I just really prefer the Swedish version. It just worked a lot better for me, especially when it comes to the two kids. Their relationship felt a lot better in the Swedish version. To me, I haven't read the book, but it felt like that is actually the focus of the story and not the sort of horror stuff. If you are interested, interestingly, the book's author likes both versions. You know, just like, oh, you know, this is not what the author wanted. No. The author likes both versions. He feels really happy. I read a comment of his. He feels really happy. I mean, I can imagine that his very first book was filmed not once, but even twice, you know, and you've got two versions that are different, but are both good. And I must say, yeah, that is good. I mean, that is definitely something to be happy about. Yeah, so, you know, I think it's a thing of preference. Like I say, I prefer the Swedish version. To me, it just felt more of a visceral experience. You know, the American one felt a bit samey compared to other horror films, etc. Right? So that's how I'll word it. Both of them are worth it, but, you know, I think you really should watch the Swedish one first, because, again, to me, it feels like a bit more of what the original story is supposed to be. Anyway, that will be all from me today. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe. It is the best way to support this channel. Leave a comment down below about anything you want to say about Let the Right One In, Let Me In. Have you read the book? You know, anything you want to say, comparisons, comments, all these things. Have you got other Swedish films that you can recommend? I am really not familiar with Swedish cinema, so if there are interesting things there, I would definitely enjoy seeing them. Yeah, anything you want to say, put that down in the comments below. I'll thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one on Flying Wiener. Take care, bye.